Tortilla Flat, Arizona is 6 times larger than Minowi since it has 6 residents, and Arizona also has 1/4 of the Four Corners Monument, the only point where 4 states meet in the US. Arizona, Utah, Colorado, and New Mexico, which as a state, by law, still recognizes Pluto as a planet. New Mexico is typically the last state to vote in presidential primaries, whereas Iowa is usually the first. Iowa is the only state in the US whose eastern and western borders are both water. In this case, rivers. The eastern border is the Mississippi River, which happens to be the namesake for Mississippi. The Mississippi River also flowed backwards for a full 24 hours in 2012 during Hurricane Isaac, but the Mississippi doesn't actually reach the ocean in Mississippi. It does so in Louisiana, home to the longest bridge over water in the world at 24 miles. That's so long that for 8 of those miles, you can't even see land on either side. One of the other longest bridges in the US is in North Carolina, the Virginia Dare Memorial Bridge, which carries cars out to Kitty Hawk, where the Wright brothers successfully flew a heavier-than-air aircraft for the first time in history. It was a 12-second, 120-foot flight. That's shorter than the wingspan of a Boeing 747. North Carolina's southern neighbor is South Carolina, although South Carolina isn't all that south, since more than half of it is north of North Carolina's southernmost point, and South Carolina also has a town called North, making it North South Carolina. South Carolina was the site of the first Civil War battle, and the Civil War ended up having a total of 1 battle over in Indiana, where the Indy 500 Speedway is, which is so enormous that you could comfortably fit the entire country of the Vatican inside it. It can also fit 400,000 people, which is the highest capacity of any sports arena in the world. Indiana's state beverage is water, while Oregon's is milk. Portland, Oregon is also home to the world's smallest park, according to the Guinness World Records book, Mill End Park. Oregon is also one of the few states to not have a sales tax, along with New Hampshire, the only state to have no law requiring adults to wear seatbelts. Connecticut Lake, in New Hampshire, is the source of the Connecticut River, which is what Connecticut, the state, is named after. Hartford, Connecticut's airport, at less than 3 million passengers per year, is the smallest airport in the US to have a direct flight to Europe. Delaware, on the other hand, certainly doesn't have a direct flight to Europe, since it's the only state that you can't fly to. There's not one commercial flight in or out of this tiny state. It's the second smallest state behind Rhode Island, which is so small that the entire state grows by 3% during low tide. Rhode Island's second largest city, Warwick, shares its name with Warwick, Pennsylvania, and in Pennsylvania is Centralia, where the ground has been on fire since 1962 due to a coal mine fire, and it's expected to burn for over 200 years. Pennsylvania borders Minnesota. Well, not really, but Pennsylvania Avenue does intersect Minnesota Avenue in DC, and Minnesota is home to the northernmost point in the lower 48. You see, most of the US-Canada border is defined by the 49th parallel, but a surveying error led to this. The couple hundred residents of this area, called the Northwest Angle, are completely cut off from the US and need to pass into Canada, then back into the United States to go to school. Also in northern Minnesota is Virginia, the town, but Virginia, the state, is massive. So massive that Ewing, Virginia is closer to 8 other state capitals than to its own state capital, Richmond. Alexandria, Virginia is actually closer to Toronto, Canada than it is to Ewing, Virginia. Virginia also happens to go farther west than West Virginia. Virginia is also home to this place, the headquarters of the teaching company who run the Great Courses Plus.